keep an eye out. Keep your dog on a tight leash.
A coyote was injured this weekend. Police now on the hunt for whoever set the snares. Plus,
I guess I made history, but yeah, this is a pretty historical moment. I'm just excited that I was able to be a part of it.
doors open at pot shops across the province today, but not as many as you'd think. Details on why the numbers fall short. And the who's who of the Canadian music scene on the red carpet tonight, the 30th SOCAN Awards, celebrating those who write hit songs. Good evening, I'm Mike Wise. Peel Police are warning people in Mississauga to take care if they plan to walk their dogs this week. They found 11 illegal snare traps set up in a local park just off Mississauga Road near Eglinton. Now, no people or pets have been hurt so far, but some local wildlife has. Taylor Simmons visited the area tonight.
In a busy city, Hewick Meadows Park offers Mississauga residents a refuge of trails and wildlife, but police are asking people to use extra caution in the area after finding about a dozen of these snares. They're made with thin wire, making them difficult to see. Mississauga Animal Services says they found one injured coyote here on Wednesday. 2 days later, they got a call from an area resident who said they'd found a dead coyote. In total, they found 11 snare traps. They say not on this path, but not far from it.
Well, I think it's a little terrible because there's a lot of kids and a lot of people walking. You don't want nobody to get, their foot caught on something like that.
Police say the traps are illegal. They've launched an investigation to find out who set them and why.
It's a large area, and we did send officers out today to comb the area to see if we can find any additional traps. I myself, I've been with Peel Regional Police for now close to 15 years. I have not come across a case like this before, so this is something new for us.
In a statement, Mississauga Animal Services say they also have officers continuing to conduct proactive patrols and routine inspections in Hewick Meadows. The Ministry of Natural Resources has been engaged and is conducting an investigation under the Fish and Wildlife Conservation Act. They added the injured coyote is still recovering at the Toronto Wildlife Centre for rehabilitation.
These are hunting-style traps. We're asking people, if you are going to use the trail system in that park, just to keep an eye out. Keep your dog on a tight leash.
Police are also asking if you see someone suspicious in the area or have any further information to give them a call. Taylor Simmons, CBC News, Mississauga.
A two-alarm fire at a high-rise building in Parkdale has left 2 people injured, one of them in life-threatening condition.
The crews did a good job. We were here in a short time and were able to knock the fire down, and we're lucky that there's only 1 or 2 injuries.
This happened on the 6th floor of a building at Jamestown and King around 6:30. Fire crews found black smoke coming out of a window. They rescued 1 person. That man was taken to hospital with life-threatening injuries. The other victim suffered minor injuries. And police have issued a Canada-wide warrant today for this man, 37-year-old Abdullahi Adan. Now, they believe he is one of the 4 people involved in the armed kidnapping of 22-year-old Wenjian Liu. Now, Adan is facing charges of kidnapping, forcible confinement, and assault with a weapon.
The motive is part of this ongoing investigation, and we're just not sure why this had taken place at this point in time. Obviously, our investigators have spoken with Mr. Liu, and I'm sure he's provided them with some great evidence, but we don't know the motive.
Liu is a Chinese national studying here in Toronto. He was grabbed from an underground parking lot in Markham just over a week ago, and he was tased and thrown into a van, and then 3 days later, he was found in Gravenhurst, suffering from minor injuries. There were long lineups on Queen Street West today as Toronto's only legal cannabis store opened, Ontario becoming the last province in Canada to allow retail sales. But today's rollout didn't go exactly as planned. As our Nick Boisvert tells us, along with that Queen Street location, only a handful of other proposed stores opened.
For the diehards in line, the wait still beats the black market or online shopping.
It's easier for people to go out and buy stuff from the store rather than waiting a week and a half.
The accessibility is a big thing. I know a lot of people in Ontario have been waiting for a long time to be able to kind of grab it legally.
The Honey Pot was one of just 9 stores in Ontario that opened its doors today. There were supposed to be 25, but most of the businesses that won the retail lottery didn't get their licenses in time.
Some didn't fill their paperwork out, some's taking a little longer, but I think over the next couple of weeks we'll get it done.
Brampton's Ganjika House is the GTA's other pot shop for now.
And I think we made something here that we can all be proud of, each and every one of us.
The store opened with a more modest lineup this morning. Customers said the wait and somewhat higher prices were worth it.
For me, it's reassuring to know what's in the product, right? So I'm happy about that.
But the product might not last very long. The Ontario government is capping orders to retail stores because of what it calls a national cannabis shortage. The federal government doesn't see it that way. Its latest stats say Canada's growers have almost 19 times more cannabis than they actually sell. Business owners are still waiting for the smoke to clear.
At this time, I'm not overly concerned because the supply seems to be there. So I think we're okay for now. What happens in the next couple of weeks will really determine if supplies are concerned based on the demand.
Across the country, about 80% of recreational pot is still purchased illegally. It's also about 50% cheaper on the black market, according to Stats Canada. Industry experts say retail stores will eventually attract some of those customers.
I think people are going to like this experience. They're going to learn a lot if they have questions. And I also think there's an undefined number of people that will only buy it in a retail cannabis shop that you walk into, ask questions, and buy.
And there's going to be more uncertainty on the horizon for pot stores here in Ontario. The province still hasn't said exactly how many licenses it plans to hand out. It's going to do that once the supply stabilizes. And we still don't know when the federal government is going to regulate new items, things like cannabis edibles, drinks, vape pens. All of that is expected to come on the market sometime in the future, and all that is going to cause another disruption to this industry. Nick Boisvert, CBC News, Toronto.
A new leaked report from federal scientists suggests Canada is warming at twice the global rate. Now, that news coming out just as the carbon tax kicked in here in Ontario. That caused the price of gas to jump about 5 cents a litre. As our Queen's Park reporter Mike Crawley explains, that's come under fire from the Premier.
124.9. At the pumps today, gas prices hit the highest they've been this year, and these drivers are placing the blame on Ottawa.
Carbon tax, right?
Carbon tax, federal government.
I heard because of the taxes.
At a Ford dealership, Premier Doug Ford hammers away at that carbon tax.
We know for a fact when you go to the gas pumps right today, you're paying 5 cents a litre more.
The average price of a litre of gas dropped 30 cents from October to February. Then it rose more than 20 cents in the 6 weeks that followed. And that increase before today was all about market forces, not the carbon tax.
You know, gas prices go up and down, they fluctuate. If we don't actually address climate change, it's going to have a serious impact on the people who come, our children, our children's children, and our children's children.
The Prime Minister tells us that the carbon tax will be good for us. But then I sit back and say, really? Why should anybody believe what he says anymore?
Even though the carbon tax only begins today, you're getting a rebate of it on your 2018 income tax return, worth more than $300 for a family of 4.
We're putting a price on pollution, but when people file their taxes, they'll get the climate action incentive rebate, which is more than most folks will pay.
Yet a recent poll suggests only 40% of Ontarians are aware of the income tax rebate, and some of those pumping gas today aren't convinced.
I don't think so it's going to still help out to anyone.
Well, yeah, if they give us $2,000 back, maybe it might help.
The Ford government stoked anger about the carbon tax online all weekend.
Friends, today is the last day to fill up your gas tank before the federal carbon tax hits your family budget like a ton of bricks.
Dozens of Ford's MPPs tweeted out a similar anti-carbon tax message on Sunday, with photos of themselves pumping gas.
It was completely ridiculous and reckless for them to put our children's future at risk by saying we should be increasing pollution rather than decreasing pollution.
Mike Crawley, CBC News, Toronto.
Advocates and city councillors are expressing fresh concerns over overdose prevention site cuts by the province. As we told you on Friday, the Ontario government announced that under its overdose prevention strategy, just 6 sites in Toronto are approved for funding. Now, one of the 3 that has not yet been approved near Ryerson University is actually run by Toronto Public Health.
These are life-saving, evidence-informed services. When the services are taken away, I expect you will see deaths.
Davila says the Toronto Public Health site is the busiest site in the province, with more than 40,000 visits since 2017. Premier Doug Ford responded to that criticism today.
It's all right for people to say, yes, help them, help them, help them. And with all due respect, Colin, if I put one beside your house, you'd be going ballistic. You would. But I want to try to help these people.
In the first 6 months of 2018, more than 600 Ontarians died from opioid overdoses, up 80 from the same time period in previous years. Colette's here with our first look at the forecast. Month of April, new month. What can we expect?
Yeah, it's nice to kind of know. I know nothing ever seems to go the way that it should or in terms of averages, but it's always kind of nice to know what our climate norms would be. So our average daytime high in the month of April is 12.2. Of course, keeping in mind that's averaged the highs throughout the month, so it would be lower at the beginning of the month. We're right around 8 about now, just under, and then warmer at the end of the month. The average daytime low, 1.9. Right now we're around -2, and average rainfall, 63 millimeters. We are into spring and snowfall. Yeah, it still snows in April, 4.5 centimeters potential there. We don't really see much of a potential for the GTA over the next 24 hours, but I kind of want to point out what's going to be happening. Clouds on the increase, winds picking up from the south to southwest, so our temperature goes up tomorrow, but some snow to the north and northwest of us. And as we go Tuesday night into Wednesday, we could see the odd sprinkle or a little wet flurry making their way into the GTA. I think it's mostly going to stay northward, though, as this rolls through. So a look at your forecast overnight tonight, falling to a low of -1 with quite a bit of cloud cover, and then with some sunny breaks tomorrow, milder, although the wind's breezy, so there'll be a bit of a wind chill, but the high of 8, Mike.
Okay, thanks, Colette.
You're welcome.
Stranded in Toronto. I'm Greg Ross. Tonight I speak with 6 people from Alberta who have been stuck in Toronto for 3 days after Air Canada grounded its fleet of Boeing 737 MAX 8 planes. We'll have their story coming up.
Welcome back. It's been almost 3 weeks since airlines grounded their Boeing 737 MAX planes, but the repercussions of that are still being felt. A group of volunteers from Edmonton has been stuck in Toronto the last few days. They were on their way home from Ethiopia when they missed their connection in Toronto. Greg Ross tells us why they haven't been able to get on a flight since.
Usually, April 1st, we don't wear sandals in Toronto.
Yeah, this is not an April Fool's joke.
Unfortunately, those are the only shoes Nathan Freed has right now.
Here we are stuck in Toronto, and they ship all of our clothes, all of our checked luggage to Edmonton without us.
Freed is a reverend at the First Baptist Church in Peace River, Alberta. On March 23rd, he took a group from the church on a one-week trip to Ethiopia to do some volunteer work.
We have a connection with a really poor school in a really poor neighborhood, and we wanted to teach English. They asked us to come and do that.
They arrived there just days after an Ethiopian airline Boeing 737 MAX MAX 8 plane crashed, killing 157 people on board.
The school that we were teaching in was actually only about 15-20 minutes away from the crash site.
Little did they know that crash would eventually have an impact on their travel plans. They were scheduled to fly back this past Friday, but their flight was delayed 3 hours, causing them to miss a connection here in Toronto. Air Canada put them on standby and loaded their luggage onto another plane.
The plane was too full, so they said,
Yeah.
go see customer service, and then they told us we had to wait till Tuesday to get on another plane.
That was Saturday morning. The reason for the long delay? Air Canada is dealing with a massive backlog after grounding its fleet of 24 Boeing 737 MAX 8 planes. Not a single one of you guys are wearing a jacket.
We had t-shirts.
While Air Canada is footing the bill for their hotel and food, they had to pay out of pocket for clothes to get through this 4-day layover. Just one of the many inconveniences.
We are missing a lot of school. We're grade 12 students. It's hard to miss 2 days of school.
But they say they are making the best of it, shopping and taking in some of the sights.
We went to the CN Tower today, and now we're going to a Blue Jays game, so we're trying to make the most out of it.
Nobody from this group has ever been to Toronto. They only wish the trip could have been under better circumstances. They fly to Edmonton tomorrow morning and then have a 5-hour drive back to Peace River. Greg Ross, CBC News, Toronto.
Well, a day after the Canadian Women's Hockey League announced it would be shutting down, the general manager of one of its teams, the Calgary Inferno, says doesn't mean they're finished.
Just as any other time we've been faced with adversity, we are going to go back to the drawing board and we'll try to come out of this situation stronger than we came into it.
The Inferno won the league championship just over a week ago. The league, which had teams in Toronto and Markham, has said its business model is financially unsustainable and will shut down May 1st. There's another women's pro league in North America, the NWHL, which currently operates only in the U.S. It had been in talks with the Canadian League about a possible merger. Well, up next, two winning Toronto teams, the Leafs securing a playoff berth, the Raptors securing a divisional title. Highlights from those games when we come back.
The weather update is brought to you by Train Extreme Conditions Testing. It's hard to stop a train, really hard. Train, the most reliable heating and cooling brand.
Well, the Leafs facing the Islanders tonight, needing just 1 point to claim a playoff spot. John Tavares once again booed by his former home crowd. Let's pick it up in the second. Calle Rosen making his season debut. Fires a long shot. That's his first career NHL goal. Not the prettiest, but hey, it still counts. Still in the second, Austin Matthews, watches, takes a puck off his foot. He hits the ground like a ton of bricks, but don't worry, he stayed in the game, got up and played. Then in the third, Mitch Marner dropping a pass for Tavares. He scores his first goal against his old team. Leafs go on to clinch that playoff spot for the third straight season with a 2-1 win. And the playoff-bound Raptors clinched the Atlantic Division title tonight after defeating the Orlando Magic. Toronto was off to a slow start, but turned things around by halftime. Danny Green with one of his best games of the season. 7 3-pointers, one of them right there. 29 points as Toronto beat Orlando 121-109. And a busy night in Toronto. The Jays hosting Baltimore. Just over 10,000 fans at the Dome. The Jays with a late rally after trailing 6-0 after 6 innings. Randall Grichuk here with a 2-run home run in the 7th. The Jays would actually come close to tying it in the bottom of the 9th with this Teoscar Hernandez triple. But the Orioles would hold on to win this one 6-5. Colette is back with her extended forecast. I think Mother Nature was playing a joke on us this morning. It looked warmer than it felt.
Yeah, it looked quite nice out there, right?
Yeah.
A beautiful spring day for April 1st. Yes, that was our April Fools, because if you got into those winds, the temperatures weren't that mild. And then if you got into that winds, our high was just around 3 degrees. It felt like about -2, -3. So it's going to warm up. We're going to see a little bit of a warming trend the next couple of days, and then it dips a bit. But towards the weekend, that's when temperatures really look more spring-like. The next system that's moving through, you know, it's staying mostly to the north of us in terms of the precipitation, so the snowfall this time up there. But we're going to inherit quite a bit of the cloud cover tonight and tomorrow with some sunny breaks and winds coming from the south to southwest, breezy. So some of those wind gusts could be 40, maybe even 50 kilometers an hour. Again, the precip looking like it stays even Tuesday night into Wednesday to the north, but I wouldn't be surprised if just the odd little shower or a little bit of a wet flurry could make its way down into the city. So that would be Tuesday night into Wednesday morning. And then a cold front is going to go through, and eventually we're going to find those winds changing around towards the north again, and the temperatures come down. I'll explain that more as we get into the 5-day forecast. We're looking at partly cloudy skies for southwestern Ontario with that temperature around freezing. Highs tomorrow 8, 9. You might even see the odd area spiking up to 10 degrees, but the cloud cover keeps things down a little bit, and yet the wind flow from the south to southwest helps to push the temperatures up. Overnight tonight, -1 for us at Pearson. That's what we'll be looking at, a little cooler towards Markham with some of that cloud cover pushing in and getting a little thicker through the overnight hours, and then a range of temperatures from 6 to 9 degrees. At times we could see a little bit more sunshine in certain pockets, but mostly we'll see the clouds with just some of these sunny breaks through the day. Okay, here's that 5-day forecast walking you through a little breezy not only tomorrow but into Wednesday as well. Just a slim chance we could get a little sprinkle there Tuesday night into Wednesday morning, or the odd wet flurry with that temperature going down to 3 degrees. 9, nice with sunshine Wednesday. But then the cold front goes through, and that's when the temperature gets a little cooler through the overnight, so a chilly start to Thursday morning, the high only 5 degrees. And then into Friday, look for some showers moving into the forecast. They should be fairly light in nature, but still throughout the day, we have that risk with the high of just 6. And then I know it's getting out there, but we're looking towards the weekend already. We just came back to work, right? And we're looking at some double digits as we get towards next weekend, Mike.
First week of April, some room for improvement.
Yes. Well, we've got lots of room for improvement.
Okay.
You got it.
Thanks a lot, Colette.
You're welcome.
Well, from Carly Rae Jepsen to Chad Kroeger and more, some big names in Canadian music gathered for the 30th annual SOCAN Awards. Of the highlights when we return. Well, some big names in Canadian music walking the red carpet at tonight's SOCAN Awards. Now, those awards celebrate the people who actually write the songs. Deanna Sumanek-Johnson has some of the highlights.
The SOCAN Awards every year honor the men and women who write your favorite songs, but this year it was the 30th anniversary of the awards, so the ceremony felt that much more special, and there were honors for some of Canada's most legendary songwriters, including Buffy Sainte-Marie, who was inducted into the Songwriters Hall of Fame. She had this to say about her trick to writing a very memorable song.
Oh my gosh, just the art of the 3-minute song. You got to keep it brief and you got to focus it and you got to pour your heart into it, and that's the secret.
One of the other big names tonight, the man who won Canada's most performed songwriter, was Nickelback's Chad Kroeger. Love him or hate him, he is a bit of a polarizing figure on Canada's pop scene. He has written some of the most performed songs in this country, and he said that this honor was very special to him. Have a listen.
I'm an okay guitar player and I'm an all right singer, but I'm a damn good songwriter. And that's the one thing I've always prided myself on. And now tonight, there's a room full of people that want to recognize that, and like, I'm gonna cry, I'm gonna cry.
There are also young songwriters like Elijah Woods and Jamie Fine, who talked about some of the challenges in writing in the year 2019.
I don't need you, I don't need you, never be as lucky lady.
The interesting thing about pop music in 2019 is that there is no formula, and like more so now than ever, it's just that nobody has any clue what's going to happen.
But what's really great about ceremonies like tonight is that when you get all these songwriters in one room, they get to trade tips, and because they love to collaborate, I have a feeling we're going to get a few new songs out of tonight. Deanna Sumanek-Johnson, CBC News, Toronto.
Well, before we go, it's hard to believe that this Friday marks 25 years since the death of Kurt Cobain. Well, tomorrow on Q on CBC Radio 1, Danny Goldberg will be talking with Tom Power. He was Nirvana's former manager and will recount his experience of managing the band and dealing with the aftermath of Kurt's suicide. You can hear that tomorrow at 10 a.m. on CBC Radio 1. I'll see you back here tomorrow night at 11. Good night.